It's glitchy, but it's okay.
That's the correct angle or shift.
No, you shift this side. I need to do this.
Chiva, you want to sit there?
No, I'm in good here.
Are you sure?
Yeah,
You can the chair.
No, I'm good. No, I'm good. Thank you.
Get my color just in case.
I like this setup.
Yeah.
No, you should thank me for that. So I change the format. So
No, you guys should thank me for setting it up.
So it used to be slightly more palm. Ideally, what we wanted to do was to make them just asking more questions. In fact, one of the format that we had was to tell them, get the entrepreneurs here and tell them, make the students tell what they feel about your business and give frank feedback about your business. That was the culture that we wanted to set here, so that there is a lot more value for the people who will come. And of course, from then, discussion will branch out to get there very soon. So, thanks for being here. Okay, and have two who are building extremely interesting business, but their past is as interesting as what they are trying to build. right? So we have design thinking expert here. Right? So who passed out of army, right? Who from army. So he's a better artist than I. Then he built a very interesting business to business helping a lot of brands with designing. And now they're doing something known as brand. I will ask them to talk about it. So you probably Housejoy. Most of you will have experienced Housejoy. He's the founder of Housejoy. He's been exited at the right time before things go. Right. So welcome you all. Right. As I said, these are the entrepreneurs first and students again. That's what I like telling you about. So perhaps I'm sure some of them will end up becoming unicorns very soon. Right? So I gave an introduction to what they are going to do. So we have some very interesting companies. For example, we have Lizard who is trying to disrupt the day weather, how we find weather. We have guys who are building zero collateral based crypto lending. So we have those who are building wearables for banks. So, there are companies in drones, there are tech companies, fintech companies. To name the area we have. So to get there, okay, let me start with it. So we have worked with a lot of companies with this work. Applying design thinking, helping entrepreneurs discover the problems, entrepreneurs discover the solutions. How do you suggest that, right, to pick up the right problem, right, within the companies that get? What's your suggestion to that in terms of picking up the right problem? Yes, so just to tell you, this is just 2-3 questions to this and then
picking up the right problem starts from identifying the problems. And to identify those problems, I'm guessing you guys are used to design thinking tools because I can see a lot of flyers over here. So essentially, it starts from interview tools, and you get to the base of the problem by understanding their consumers. And once you understand the consumers, you list out those problems, and there are a bunch of tools to actually see priority-wise what really helps them based on their story and the direction that they're going in. So I would say that there is no one way to actually say that this is the problem that you need to focus on. But I'm a firm believer that if you can understand the people that use your product and empathize with their needs, that prioritization comes automatically. So I would say everything that I believe in doing, and I believe most brands should be doing this, is to understand your end consumers and see what is right for them, and then prioritize your problem based on that.
Right. So we'll come back to power question. Sunil, you built Housejoy probably for many of them, right? Probably 15 years back, this could have been the most unsexy kind of business to get into. So now also is a different issue, right? But no, but e-commerce made people a lot more of this one. Right? So, but you are one of the first guys to pick up this problem. Right? So I people so most of the time when you started, I'm sure 95% of them were saying that why are you doing this? This won't work from the unit economics perspective. Just the way you make this business work. Right? So what motivated you to stay up? And what are the answers that you had for yourself to convince yourself? And I mean, how did you go about solving this problem? So you can just help us, give us a view of your strategies and the problems that you face, etc. I'm sure a lot of us are solving the similar problems, right? So where people can easily call us fools. Right? They are not wrong, but how can we prove them wrong?
Pretty interesting one. So takes me back to those days when we were doing this ideation model. Interestingly, my earlier co-founder Arjun was also on this. So Arjun and I were just sitting across and we were looking at, okay, we want to do a startup. And what is it that we should do? Okay, if you look at the product space, we have a Flipkart, Amazon, which already exists, which are solving a particular problem pretty well. They said, okay, but who is solving this problem in the services space? So you have this huge spend of a household on services like plumbers, electricians, carpenters, suppliers, etc. So there was no one organized player, and there was only a player called Just That, which is just solving for discovery. And that was it was a classified website, and it was doing a horrible job of solving that problem. And that company was at that time valued at $2 billion. Why should this company be valued at $2 billion and it's doing such a bad job of solving this problem? Because what happens is, how does it work in Just That? You put your request, and then this same number is shared with some 20 people. You immediately start getting 20 calls. And you first point only you get frustrated. Why this is 20 people coming? And then you say that, okay, fine, whoever, so you will say that, okay, come over to my place and you inspect and then you try to prepare stuff for me. And then you also say that, okay, whoever comes first will get to come fast. And you do not know the background of the person, you don't know the skill level of that person, and there is absolutely no price transparency. He can come and quote at 500 bucks or 1,000 bucks or whatever he feels like that he can quote that. And there's a negotiation process, etc. So this felt like a very broken kind of a process, wherein there's absolutely no certainty about anything, on the outcome, on the pricing, on the quality of work that we get. So that's what we picked up as a problem, that we will solve this problem of discoverability and the entire experience end to end. So it is not so. So how did we go about it? So we just first of all, for solving the quality of the work, we used to have these labs where we used to call these professionals and we used to conduct a test for them and assess their skill. So only very good quality supply we used to sort of onboard. Next, we brought in complete price transparency. So for every, if you want to get a light fixture, it's 100 rupees for that. Like that, we published that rate card on the site. The customer is assured of that nobody is trying to keep them. The third thing was, biggest thing was that everybody had the number of a plumber or electrician. The problem was chasing them. They say, I'll come Saturday, I'll come Sunday. So we said that, okay, once you book on the app, the time that you have specified will ensure that the service partner reaches there on time. So these are the big problems that we try to solve, and it's a big hit. People love us for solving all these problems. And from a service provider point of view also, there were some problems we were solving because they used to feel that, you know what, I spend, one is I'm in Indira and I get a job in Whitefield. I have to travel these long distances, I spend money on petrol, etc. And I go there and the job is already taken to somebody else. So that was also a frustration for them. Okay, so what we said was, okay, we will give to service provider, we will give you jobs in a hyper location, in a area which is geofence. Like you only get jobs in India. By following all these strategies, what started happening was that earlier these service providers were earning 12 to 15,000 rupees. Now with Housejoy coming into the picture, these service providers started earning 50 to 60,000 rupees a month, which is a game changer. So 50, 60,000 rupees, you are middle income. You are no longer that lower income. So these were some of the things. So then we went category by category. We started picking up. Each category had its own nuances of what are the various things that we need to solve for. But basically, for the end customer, it was that we will take care of this experience end to end. So that's how we went about identifying the space and then solving the problems that that were part of the discovery and the execution process at that point.
So Arjun, I want to come back. One is discovering the problem. So second one, most of the time, right, we are techies at heart. So we have the solution and then looking for a problem. So you can't help it because in the deep tech, what happens, right? So you figure out some very, very interesting technology to solve that. So on your Zoom, there is one particular market that you want to go after. You may even go after. But what is your advice to entrepreneurs, right, who have a solution and they need to find the right market where the solution is, right? So from your it's like I already have a product. Right? When they have a product, you want to see how I can help them monetize this. Right? What is your solution to that? And probably even you should take this.
So I mean, it's very hard for me to answer this because I don't function like that. But I mean, I've studied enough entrepreneurs or let's just take the most famous this one, right? Steve Jobs said that he creates a solution not listening to the consumers. So I would, I mean, if I were in that hypothetical situation, what I would do to actually find the end consumers is maybe even to test it out in what scenarios that you have assumed them in, because there are sometimes that people don't know that they're looking for the solution. Maybe your solution will remind them that yes, this is a massive problem in their mind. So it's always good to I would always circle back to understanding your core audience, so you can keep a small subset of test groups and test it out and see which would be your right market. I'm sure you'll get a lot of feedback from the prototyping phase that's part of the design thinking module. And then build your value proposition further on smaller subsets of your interviews and prototypes. I would probably do that.
See that, I mean, just as a follow. So the problem that happens to a lot of us is not discovering one, but we end up discovering 5, 6 markets. So one obvious answer is go to the market which is the largest. Right? It may or may not work. I'm sure, right, if you were consulting, you would have seen an opportunity there are 5, 6 markets or 5, 6 ways in which you can go. What's your recommendation? What would our recommendation be?
So yeah, I mean, then I will definitely have to. Every business survives or exists to make money. At the end of the day, we are in a capitalist environment, so it will have to. It's not just about the size of the market in terms of how many users you may have. I would focus on the revenue. So it could mean that there are 10,000 people who are looking for this, but are only ready to pay me $100 a month. But whereas there are 3 businesses or corporates who are ready to take us on board and give us 1,000x, right? Then the question would come: what do you want your business to then serve? Right? It again goes back to your pool size. Depends on what works out for your business, and then I would choose that corporate and work out my business to fit that and go forward.
So, Sunil, I mean, in some way, right, while the need was evident to the business, but you still had to go and tell them this is possible. So, in a way, this is not a solution that obviously people were expecting to do. You have to go and educate them. In fact, many times I'm sure this will have been frustrating considering the cost of acquiring. Just help us again through those initial days of selling, right? So just the extension. You had a solution. You have to identify the right segment to whom you have to go and market it and then just give us some examples of the journey.
I would actually go a few steps back, going to the question of the ideation, how do you identify problems. So the ideation does not happen in a vacuum. I mean, a solution, a tech-led solution, etc., if it is just without a sight of a problem, then it can be as big as like internet or electricity. It becomes that kind of a revolution. But otherwise, the way we went about identifying a problem is you look around, see what people are expressing as their frustrations, etc. That okay, what's so difficult to find a problem? Why is it so difficult to find a good patient, etc. And you actually get married to the problem. What the solution is emerges later on. This counterintuitive to what some of the things which they said that you have to, we have some deep tech solutions which are there, we have to identify a market. Whereas we never took that kind of approach that we have a solution and we have to fit it to a market. Rather, we try to understand what are the frustrations of people, what are people talking about, and then try to find a solution to that. So to that extent, I always say be married to the problem rather than the solution. There could be several solutions, okay, but you have to solve that problem from the consumer. Having said that, then you have different solutions that will emerge, and some of the questions are also that okay, then you have to do an assessment of the size of the market, and also you have to do where will you find early adoption of users. Okay, so size of the market is one thing, but if you cannot find a very easy way to sort of get people early adopters, if you cannot get, then there's a big problem. So then you have to identify those niches where you can get early adopters. Now, so once we had identified the problem that we want to solve and the purported solution, so we actually started with solving something else. We started solving for discovery, high quality supply, etc. Of service providers. But eventually, actually, what did we end up solving? It was this chasing part of the customer. That it's so frustrating. That was the prime frustration. As I said, that people had their numbers of a plumber or an electrician or a carpenter, but it was just the uncertainty of when this guy will come and solve my problem. So that was the core of the problem solution, the solution that we sort of started with. And I lost track of what was the other you asked for.
So I said that anyway, because I think just the point that you just made, even within the solution that was developed. So I mean, normally all of us will think that right, we have the number, we have the number, right? So we have the data, but it doesn't mean that you have an it was solving your problem. That's a very, very brilliant analogy to look back into what we are solving. My question to you was initially you had to go and you have the solution, you have to go and find out the niche group of customers to whom you will start working with, right? And then know what the right communication to go out. So what was the
So in terms of customer acquisition, so it was clearly a problem waiting to be solved because we did not face that much of a difficulty marketing this solution to consumers. So we obviously took the route of digital marketing and advertising on Facebook, Google, etc. We started out with a certain very high customer acquisition cost, which we sort of optimized product on. So that was primarily the thing that okay, the app also was a medium which we sort of tried to, which was a medium of selling our service. That you can come to an app, it's as easy as a few taps and you can book the service. You don't have to talk to a call center or talk to any service provider. We will ensure that in the backend, we take care of all the levels of service that we expect. So those were the few things that came out, and also what gave people confidence was we had a blanket guarantee that of 10,000 rupees. Okay, we just took a shot that we'll give you, we insure your job for 10. We did not have any back-end insurance tie-ups, etc. But we said we'll 10,000 up to 10,000 rupees. Anything goes wrong, we'll cover it. Now that gave a lot of confidence to people that yes, okay, fine, these are genuine guys, and if anything goes wrong, so I can try them.
Yes, that's your part doing that.
No, so, okay, so point I want to further tell was that we never had a single case of where we had to give customers.
Just joking. Any questions? Please make it. Any questions? Other than issues, any comments?
No, issues also is nice. Okay. Sir, when you are going, I think getting customers in a, let's say, a segment where you're going in what Housejoy were doing, getting, let's say, carpenters or plumbers, I think that was the more difficult part for you, right? Because my family runs a home interior company, and the problem what we usually have is getting carpenters and retaining them for a longer time. How did you do that? Or how did you deal with that problem?
Real good question.
That was an interesting one. So the company which we tried to disrupt, which is just that, We use that only as a platform for getting all the supply. So we actually advertised on Just Dial as a company, and we took all their supply of plumbers and electricians, and we did that assessment of these people. Okay, and we created a large enough. I mean, that was we moved extremely fast in those there. I mean, to give you an example of where we were in January 2015, we had just launched our commercial services with 0 orders, and by June 2015, actually, we did 1,000 orders a day. That is the kind of, and in 13 categories, the organization grew from 0 to 450 people. And the supply also, we had a supply of around 7,000-8,000 service providers in each of the cities. So we created these assessment centers on each of the cities and used that database, publicly available database of Just Dial to get this supply on board. So we used to assess those people, give them trainings from the OEMs. Okay, so they also felt that they are acquiring, gaining skill. And the biggest kicker then for them was the improvement in their income levels. As I said before, they were sitting on 1.5 jobs a day on the average. With us, it became like 5 to 6 jobs in a day. Their whole calendar got filled, and they started earning 50 to 60,000 rupees a month. So that was a huge incentive for them to stay. So that's how we sort of created this supply, which is sticky, which they did not have the need to go anywhere else, because obviously we were filling their calendars and so on.
Any other question? Okay, so then let's come back to the company that you are trying to build now. Right? So let's get to the first part. So you are trying to help brands get offline presence without spending a lot of money. That's the just to, I mean, I will ask them to introduce their business. But the question that I wanted to ask you is, how important it is for some of the brands, consumer brands, how important it is for them to get to the retail and offline world, and what are your suggestions? And we will also have to just tell the point of that.
I mean, to sum it up, we're redefining how consumers and brands interact. We have a platform for lifestyle B2C products. We're a vertical marketplace that's helping B2C brands grow. And the way we're doing it is to redefine the way that consumers and brands interact. There are a couple of different problems that we're solving. Maybe we'll get to that over the course of this conversation. To basically answer to a further conversation that we brought up, the point of offline. Right? It's not only to get the B2C brand into the physical space with relatively less money, it's with 0 cost. So that's a massive advantage for D2C brands. Let's understand why it's a massive advantage. Most of the brands, I can, without batting an eye, tell you that 95% of everything that you're wearing over there is well-established brands. And they've taken the last 20 or 30 years to speak to you and tell you and sell you their story, to tell you that, come buy my product, it's good for you. And you've touched them, felt them, owned them, experienced them over a long period of time to trust that they are actually selling the value that they're promising you to sell. So it comes down to a branding challenge and human psychology, where whatever we do online, the physical world of experiencing these products are very important for you to establish a genuine connection to the brand that you are buying from. And a lot of times to take that first step to say that, yes, I want to buy this t-shirt is very, very, very hard for a D2C brand to convince you. And they end up spending in the front end, it doesn't seem like it. They have an Instagram profile that's doing really well and whatnot. But well is, it's got different perceptions. So it's very, very hard for these brands to actually end up convincing you. Now, what we've realized with my background in design thinking and retail and design and setting up, stores, understanding how people buy, we realized that 98% of all retail sales even today happens offline. Even though we are saying that online sales are doubling and tripling, it's relative, right? So if I say I'm 1, doubling will become 2, right? Still out of 100, 2 out of 100 is very, very small. So it's perspective, it's relative. Someone's doing a crypto, exchange or this one, right? Zero collateral, this one. So I'm also a fundamental investor in the market. Perspectives in investments very important. The same thing over here as well. We need to understand that 98% of the entire market is still physical retail, and we are using. But there is also it's not false that there is this notion that physical retail itself is declining. It's declining because the way of doing business is getting old. So the rate of growth digitally is very, very fast, but the quantum of business in physical retail is large, right? So we are connecting that old school, old world of retail to the new world of retail and saying, there are all of these businesses with great real estate that is not optimized. How can we use this unoptimized real estate space? Organizations that have built themselves for 25, 30 years selling different brands. So they have salespeople, they have physical locations, they spent on interiors, they have great experience of buying, they have a customer, pool of customers that they've built over 20, 30, 40 years. How can they use this for better use? There are these digital brands that are seeking all of these things. They do not have access to these old school advantages that these businesses have. We're connecting them so that the D2C brands can actually use all of these physical spaces to further their brand, get a better connection to the end customer, etc. In that, we have a couple of different services that we're exploring. So bringing the digital brand to the physical world is the massive problem that we're solving.
So, okay, let me ask some questions on behalf of that. So, here is a company who believes predicting when it will rain can have a huge impact on the retail. What are your take on this? Right? How much of the weather information can be useful for the retail?
Yeah, I mean, we're all waiting for a reason not to get out of house, right? So I feel like it's become a culture where you want to be part of 100 plans, but you want to have a reason to cancel those plans. So weather is a very important aspect of deciding whether you're going to go out for a dinner or for lunch or to go out to have the experience of buying something that you have pre-decided. I would say, I don't know how to give a percentage of weightage. It's a very interesting question. It's probably data that can be generated from the company and whoever's building this and given to us. But I can safely say it's a large aspect of it. It could be based on the city also, because the amount of traffic and the infrastructure is very dependent on the weather. For example, if we were in Bangalore and I was to get out in Koramangala, I would say, screw this, I'm not going to go out if it's raining, right? But if I was in Switzerland, I won't mind actually getting out in the rain, because I know that from the time that I get out of my house to the time that I go into a physical space, including even Dubai, I'll not have a drop of water, I'll not get stuck in traffic, etc., etc. So I think it'll be location specific, like weather is. It's quite location specific, which will depend on how it will impact retail per se.
So whether as a consumable by consumers is actually more prevalent in the West rather than India. India people somehow do not care, they don't check whether or not whether if you go to UK or Europe, etc. They do check whether on a daily basis what kind of weekend temperature that what kind of clothing they should wear and whether they should carry an umbrella or not. This is more of a, at least in my understanding, it's more of a Western concept of getting to know the weather before you step out of the house. In India, because of predictability or the background, from this month to this month, and hence you should carry that umbrella or your protected clothing. Other than Indians do not have this habit of consuming weather. Is what I feel. I don't know what can be done to change that, or what is the specific use case that you will have. Because I don't think if I were to go to work, just because it's going to rain, that I will not go to work. It's not going to be like that. So I really, the specific use case for consumption of rural area. Best I know for sure, US or Europe, etc., whether it's data is consumed much more quantitatively than it does in India.
So I want to ask you a slightly tougher question. Right? So,
Now,
given
for
tough, yeah. Asking you the question is tough. We don't understand as much as right. So, considering the frustration of the consumers in terms of market number, we still undefined. Do you think even today you go and create another program in a chart? Right? Do you think if there is a merit in going and creating another program?
so,
And if yes, how?
yeah,
And
so
what?
there's always a solution or an improvement solution that exists in the market, and there is always a way of bettering that. So before we came up with Housejoy, as I said, that the Star was the market leader in that space, classified, which is a very broken solution. So we sort of went and improved that. And obviously, I'm sure that there would be some other ways of improving what Urban Clark or a Housejoy company is called. The solution that they have, somebody will definitely come in. Just to say, that given the current solution that exists in the market, what are the next level of frustrations of people? That is what we have to focus on and try to solution, and that will be an improvement over the existing solution.
So my question was more from the market perspective. I'm sure solution can always be better. Right? So, thinking can always be better. But from the perspective of that market, challenges in that market, like how large profitability. Do you still think there is a possibility there, and if you dare to go and build a better?
Definitely. So, in 2014, 2015, we used to say that this services market is a $100 billion market in India. I think those days were 7 years back. So the market is huge. Okay, unit economics and profitability can be worked on. So we started off with a very high customer acquisition cost, and then optimized, brought it down to very usable level. And then see, you have to always look at your unit economics, and you should not have a negative unit economics. If you have a positive unit economics, then covering all the other technology and your management process, that can be achieved with scale. So you have to look at market, what is the size of the market, what you can achieve that scale. And definitely it's a very good problem to solve, the services marketplace. And I believe appliances is still not that easily solved, because there's a lot of OEM guarantees, etc. Come along with the appliances which are not honored if you go to a non-authorized service provider. So if you can provide good enough service that you can guarantee that service and still repair for the appliances, I think people will take that.
That's the reason why I asked the question is we started with the discussion on how important it is to find the problem rather than. So this is a classic example. Here is an entrepreneur who built it probably 7 years back, and you still think that that's a problem that you are solving. That's the power of the problem that you are identifying. If the problem is big enough, right? You will find a purpose and will always be motivated to be in what is that. And it's just an example of an entrepreneur who was passionate about solving that problem and how it helps. So it's very, very essential thing for us to figure out a purpose as to why I'm doing this, and then just being at it. So I'm sure we'll find a way, and we'll always have someone who will really like what we are doing and get to the right product. Thanks a lot for the answers. Let's be clear why I asked you. Okay. So now coming back to some of the right, so there are a lot of design students here. So in fact, one of the fundamental beliefs that we have when I set up this franchise studio is it's extremely important for startups to think of their brand, their communication, their customer experience, their design element, right from day one, right? I'm not sure how much we are able to get there, this one, etc. But I can definitely tell you there is an attempt by all. So In fact, first thing that we try to do is as soon as we sign a term sheet, is to see how we can we start thinking about what the digital strategy that we should have, what the communication strategy that we should have, is the brand looking good, starting from name, is an approach that we do. I mean, it will be really good to share some of your perspective. And probably we should take one or two examples of the companies that we have worked with and how the brand really helped them. The brand are having discipline.
So it's to sum it up, it's the importance of brand positioning and how brand positioning,
Brand positioning and the brand itself.
how to create a brand.
How to create it, what is the importance of creating that brand with some examples? Actually,
I mean, okay, so I can talk a lot about branding because I mean we are surrounded by brands, right? We buy into brands. There's no reason why we have to pay money for water, right? Why are we paying money for water? It's a basic human necessity. You have a great brand example over there where someone said, I'm going to bottle water when water was free for everyone to have, and say, I'm going to sell you water. So there is a great book and actually a series even on YouTube that talks about. Have you guys heard of Sigmund Freud? So, say, right about the time of Sigmund Freud, there were a couple of different psychologists who came up with the aspect of consumerism and how consumerism will be a new understanding of how to run society. Right? So, if you look at it post World War II, the world moved away from acquiring more land and taking on more empires, etc., into manufacturing. It's the age of industrialization, and that's where you would start looking. That's where you would start seeing that brands have started being born, right? Whether it's Ford who says that he's going to make car affordable for everyone, or Kellogg's who was supplying food for war, try to sell you the idea that eating a bowl of cornflakes is super important for you and it's very healthy for you, or drinking a glass of orange juice is really healthy for you, right? So all of these are great branding examples. Or if you look at iodized salt, tell me which salt is available without iodine. Every salt has iodine, but someone has put the sticker to say that extra like iodized salt. There's no such thing as iodized salt. So coming back, that was just to illustrate the example that everything that you buy and consume there is a story behind it, and there is a reason why you're buying it. So branding is absolutely central to everything in this world. So it comes down to your idea of your company, how you're going to sell it to someone who you want them to invest in, how you are going to sell it to the end consumer or your customers. All of this is part of branding, and there is no doubt that branding is super important. And I will even go down to the level to say that every day you are selling yourself, and whether it's to your girlfriend or your wife or your partner or the government, you are selling yourself and you are building your own brand. I had this Professor Jurgen, who's come up with this term called personal creative branding, and he's also the author of that book. It's a great book to read. And then you'll realize that brands are not just organizations; brands are also people. You are your own brand, right? So from that perspective, absolutely super important to have. You guys should actively think about what is your brand, what is your voice, what is the brand of the organization that you're building. There's enough number of books that have been written on how to create a brand, so I won't get into it because it's a really complicated science, I would say. It's not just art, it's science. To illustrate now the second part of the question, to illustrate the things that I've done. Who shops for Jutis over here? Jutis? Anyone shop for Jutis? No one shop for Jutis. So then you don't know this brand called Fizzy Bubble. So, okay, so I'll tell you how we used, let's say, have you guys used Titan? have you guys walked into a fast track store? So the concept of fast track, I was an intern basically. The concept of fast track is something that I was part of the team that developed it. How about socials? Have you guys been to any socials? Not drinking? Okay, then I'll talk about socials. So Impresario is a brand that is run by Riaz Amlani. So it started off from the question of when he started off specialized restaurants, he said every dining experience that I go into is usually in a 5-star or 3-star restaurant. How can I take that experience and take it out of the hotel experience? So he started creating thematic restaurants, and Impresario is a company that he built. So they have more than 40 brands and 300 locations, 500 crore plus turnover, etc. So it came to a time in 2012, one of my first projects, where he said, you know what, everyone is going online, but there is no one talking about human, human connection. And actually, I like to go out and have a beer with my friends because that's the time that we are actually speaking to people. And this was over a conversation. And I was working in a design firm. So the idea came from there, but we developed it to say that why don't we call it as a place to socialize? Everyone actually goes to a restaurant to socialize, but no one has designed a restaurant or a pub around the idea of socializing, right? So just the fact that we took any pub and added the story of saying, you come here to socialize, and everything that you do over here comes around socializing. So we said, now to take it into the most ridiculous term, what can make people talk as soon as they sit on this table, right? Okay, let's serve things in a bedpan, or let's put a toilet paper on the thing itself, because there's going to be super oily food. We knew the target audience. What the target audience wants, it's teenagers and early 20s. They're going to come out, want to spend only 50, $80 at those times. Have a glass of beer, a pitcher for $120. It is oily food, salty food, drinking. You want to wipe your hands, right? So okay, toilet paper. Things like that, right? So everything that will get you talking and socializing. So if you go with a new bunch of people, it's a absolutely brand new experience. So there is a story that unfolds over here. It is to take that pub experience and then to put a story into this and create a brand out of it. And then there are events, etc., that go around it. And that's one example of rebranding a pub into a social experience. And now the socials is a very popular chain. The first 5 socials I was part of designing and executing it across, and you'd be happy to know that the first socials was in Bangalore. Church Street one was the first socials, and I was there setting it up and designing it, etc. So that's an example to illustrate it.
Arjun, just to add to your point, right now, second floor of Toit is called Work from Toit.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it. In fact, I will give you 2 counterintuitive examples. Just Books. When I bought Just Books, first thing I wanted to do is go and change the name. Because in fact, we went and even like you are saying, not just books. Okay, but I just couldn't do that, right? Because Just Books brand was so clear, right? Everything that you pay on it would have been disaster, right? So that's the power of brand, right? If you do something bad, and if you are super duper successful, you'll be stuck with that brand, right? So please go and talk to Kavya and give the information that she's waiting for you. Very those days, right? That's the. In fact, Barmonia is one more example. Right? When we took over, the agency that created doesn't exist, so we wanted to, as a strategy, we wanted to go and change it, but the brand was so good that I couldn't change that. But when you do a branding, that stays with you. Right? It's not very easy to change after you grow, etc. So just think it. So, Sunil, one question probably all of them would love to hear from you. Just talk us through the funding and how you finance Housejoy. It's probably the most worried question, but you have to answer it for that.
Those days were a little different. Actually, we were able to raise 4 million Series A just on a take-up plan. We actually did not have a product also built out. So I mean, it's not a parallel world today where people look for validation, people look for some kind of level, etc. I would say maybe a year back, that kind of a euphoria was again there in the market where people were raising seed rounds of 4 billion, 3, 4 billion, and series A rounds of 10 million. So, but in 2014, it was the height of funding boom that was happening. We raised on a paper plan, we raised series A of 4 million. And once we started getting traction, so we were told by our investors that if we reach around 1,000 orders per day, that would be a good enough time for us to talk series B. And which we, so the single-minded focus was that let's achieve that target of that number of orders last year. And then we sort of launched in Amazon as a strategic partner and Vortex and Bluebat and one of our guys and we sort of then 23 million series. So those days were different. Today it is a much different place in the world where people do look for that initial traction, revenues coming in. They would like to be sure about what kind of, and obviously the investors always invest in teams. That is the most important part. How passionate is the team, how well they work together. So other than the idea, strength of the idea and being able to show the revenues, etc., they will always look at what the chemistry between the founders. That is extremely important. So as I said, that it's a very different world now. Otherwise, 2014 it was relatively simpler for us to go on to CDP.
And you said you raised your series A pretty much on planet.
Yeah.
What are the investors?
Seed was done by Matrix Partners. And we had the seed investment from Housejoy, which is Ganesh Krishna and Nila Ganesh. So they had an investment at that point. So they had done seed investment.
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Let's introduce the function.
So we four are the founders of Sunil Goel. We provide the weather service. We mostly operate in the B2B market. So individuals, definitely what I said is absolutely correct. But businesses we've identified would be in well. My question is based on branding and marketing. For D2C or B2C brands, marketing is mostly straightforward. You have a rule book for it. But how, as a B2B company, how do you approach the marketing and branding? Because it's a very sensitive topic because the people you are putting out your content to might not be buying your product. That is, how do you approach marketing and branding for the B2B? I mean, everyone has an end customer, right? So your business also has an end customer. And if they've survived and if they're a business, they know their end customer. So I would still say, understanding that end customer and to say why, if whatever solution you are providing is of value to that end customer, you'll automatically sell your product to this business, right? So I don't know. So let's illustrate an example. What are the kind of businesses that you will be catering to?
So mostly IT companies, US companies who deal with whether having a huge platform or construction companies. So that's our main segment. But we also offer whether to marketing. You can push notifications. So my question was basically around these three key events, agri events and construction. Where marketing and branding is, in my understanding, is mainly to get your image out to your key customers, saying that you are a reputed person in this space and we can provide you the information /service. How do we get that to those? Because they don't use social media. They don't use a lot of normal things that you usually use for marketing.
No, I mean, okay, let's go back a few steps, right? So just brainstorming out there. I don't know anything about your company. I don't know anything about the space. But if you talk about the three segments, you said agri, right? So on top of my mind, Agri, if someone is there in agriculture, they are probably catering to other farmers, whether they are supplying fertilizer, seeds, whatever it may be, right? So if the company that you're catering to can tell a farmer that don't harvest today, harvest day after tomorrow, because that is the best chance that you'll actually be able to retain 80% of your crop. It's a huge value that they're adding to the farm. If your construction company can very positively tell their end consumers that I have built in knowing my weather, and when I put a project completion of 180 days, it is going to happen in 180 days because I factored in all of these rain days in between and whatever it may be. And if you talk about your events company, you can guarantee them what is the eventing. If you watch Fire, FIRE, Fire Festival, the reason that it went wrong, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, what is it? They want all of the people who come into that event to talk about how well it was organized and managed. If it's going to rain and they're like, okay, I paid $2,000 and I'm not going to get anything over here, it's very hard to actually return money, right? So that success rate can be communicated to say that we're the only events company that can say 99% of all our events doesn't get watched out, right? So if you go to any of these companies and say this is how you can communicate, you've already sold yourself, right? Now with that channel, I don't care, or you shouldn't care if it's through an SMS or it's through an email or it's by in over a bar where you're saying, you know what, I can make you tell this to your end consumer. You've already sold it. This is what I mean by understanding that end consumer's problem, and then crafting your product around it, crafting the value proposition around it. Automatically, you have a story. You just need to kind of put it together properly, and then the sales it just happens. I would say. I don't know if I answered your question.
So I agree 100% with what all the legwork we've done is us going meeting clients, us signing the board. My question was centered more around, instead of doing this, footwork, is there a way for B2B businesses to generate organically? Have the businesses get to know about us without us, sending them a board email or something?
The answer is no. There's nothing, there is no substitute to hard work. I'm assuming that you've already explored the channels of LinkedIn, all kinds of networking. There's like something called as a popping up AI, you can check it out. Where directly, if you say that these are the businesses that you're targeting, it connects to your WhatsApp and it connects people in the industry directly, sends out a calendar invite and sets up a meeting for you. Okay, so there are a bunch of things like this, but end of the day, I feel like in a B2B kind of thing, anything, right? Even if you're B2C, the legwork is absolutely important. That passion that you have that's going to drive you every day to get out of your door and make it happen better and faster than the entrepreneur who's competing with you is the deciding factor that will make your brand and your company succeed. I absolutely believe in hard work, and to me that there is nothing that you can avoid that legwork. You can be smarter, you can use that time in better ways, but we cannot avoid it. And maybe that is a question that you could probably use to build your next business. I don't know if you are looking at a way to avoid it. Maybe that's a good problem to solve, honestly.
Sales is always a funnel. So you have to, let's say, top of the funnel, you send emails to some 100 people. Out of that, 10 people perhaps will respond to you. Out of that, maybe 5 people will say that, okay, that's me. And out of that, 1 will. Okay, so sales is always a funnel, whether you give a B2C or a B2B. You have to map your funnel and see what you can do to not drop outside each of the stages of the funnel. And as he said, that you just cannot avoid hard work. That network is very, very important. Just map the funnel, then you have a much clearer understanding of how many people you want to reach out, or that initial reach out you need to do to get what your desired projections, etc. that you want.
And something you're probably doing, and something simple also, is that while you're speaking to these brands, like Sunil said, out of 100 you may convince one person to meet, right? We sometimes forget in the excitement of things, right? We forget to ask that other person also, why is it that you actually ended up meeting me? And if you can collect these data points and then keep working on it, maybe you'll have better and better chances to get those meetings.
I just want to add, other than the things that are actually. So one of the hallmark of a B2B company, the reason why someone will value you or even in the funding market, someone will appreciate you is when you have a proprietary data. Right? So each business is different. There is no one answer to that. If you can figure out, I mean that's a growth hack all about. Right? If you can figure out how you can get your target customers to reach out to you, right? Without you have a plan. By the time they come to you, right? What happened with airport? Right? So leverage PR, the content marketing, your own authority. There are many few ways to hack that, but B2B companies will get value based on how well you are able to create your own proprietary and how you are able to get the customers to refer other clients. That's the most important metric that any investor will use with that. Any other questions?
So my name is Arthur, one of the co-founders of BrandNew. As you said, everyone is looking for the right team. So we are trying to solve that exact problem. We are trying to come up with a platform where you can find the right team for your project. So my question to you is, for your current company, how tough was it to convince the D2C brands to get their products in the physical location? Because that's what we are running away from, right? To not have that over logistics charge and warehouse charge and the rear and tail. So did you come up with a solution for that part, or like, how did you solve and how did you convince those companies?
Yeah, so actually, like the way I said it, it starts from the consumer, who's also the D2C brand. He's one of our clients, right? We understood the problem and we came up with a solution. So it wasn't very hard to convince D2C brands. They are looking for this solution because if you look at the data, about 80% of D2C brand sales actually happens offline, out of which 70 to 80% happens in pop-ups. Right? So we know that the physical touchpoint is super important for D2C brands to kind of grow. The digital medium can only be used to launch easily, but to scale, anyone who's been in the D2C game for more than a year realize that the physical world is very important. So as soon as we gave them the value proposition, they came on board. And I can say that 8 out of 10 brands that I've spoken to come on board as soon as we say that we solve this problem. And in fact, just to add to it, you said that this is what they're avoiding. They're not avoiding it. We are giving them the cheapest solution possible. So today, for example, if they want to get into a store, actually the store charges anywhere from 60% and above. And that's how any store can give you even 50% sale, right? We are, and to set up your own store, it actually costs about 40-50 lakhs a year, right? So if you come into our platform, you can set up a store at zero cost. Automatically wipe away 40 lakhs that you are looking at, right? And that is one location. At zero cost, you can be in multiple locations as agile as possible, as quickly as possible, right? So this is absolutely not a solution that exists anywhere in the market and solves that problem. It also solves the problem of logistics because if they're sitting in Gurgaon and they're trying to service a client in Kerala, sometimes the bank that you're sending itself is going to be cheaper than the logistics. Sometimes, why there are enough logistic solutions. But if I were to operationalize a store in Cochin and they sent it in 30 bucks, right? They also make a profit. They will choose our service beyond any other logistic solution to actually dispatch this, right? So we actually listed down all the disadvantages of actually going D2C. There are lots of advantages, there are lots of disadvantages also. Crafted a solution to all those disadvantages and came up with a product. And not only, like the second point that I was trying to make is not only are we saving that 40 lakhs in a single location and multiple location, there is this idea of promoters, right? When you get into a physical location, it's also there is a people challenge over here. It's not very easy to find, like you said, the teams. It's not very easy to grow an organization, to have store managers, inventory management, salespeople. There's a lot of attrition. Here, you're getting a network that is already solid. You're getting into a store that already has 30, 40 people who know how to sell something that they can. Right? And if you are on Amazon, by the way, to keep your stock itself, you're paying a rent. These are all unknown aspects of it. You save all of this money in operations while you are on our network. So there's a bunch of solutions going offline. So we built it around knowing the problems.
Right. Any other questions?
So hi, I'm Vanya, I'm also a co-founder of Fireside. So you spoke a bit about how consumers see weather data, but do you think a retailer with a physical store location getting weather data at his location for the next few months, how do you think that would be useful to that person?
Actually, I used to work for Tesco, and there the weather data was very, very integral to the entire forecasting. The forecasting of what will sell and weather was one of the major inputs. So definitely retail has a use case, but I'm not sure if a kirana or a standalone store has a need for that weather data or whether they will be willing to pay for that weather data. But if you go for chains, etc., I mean, evolved chains, I don't know the state of how forecasting is done in these big retail chains in India, but Tesco definitely uses a lot of weather data to predict and forecast what is going to sell. I mean, that's very, very important. They had a proprietary algorithm actually which used to take this weather data, sales history, etc., of previous similar periods, etc., and then they used to forecast what is the demand, and then they used to stock or replenish the stores based on that forecast.
He's covered most of it. So again, like open brainstorming, right? If you are looking at the retail angle to it, so everything that Sunil said makes sense. To go one step further, it all comes down to sales, right? It all comes down to marketing, right? So maybe it's not the retailer that you're looking at. It's maybe a service that is giving the marketing agency. The agency that is controlling digital marketing for massive brands that can decide when to push the ad because they know that it's going to start raining. They can tell an umbrella company, we will push these ads now because in the next 4 days we know that there's going to be rain and we can anticipate that this will convert better. So that's the way you could probably build it. Just building on Sunil's this one.
Any
Hi, so I'm Vismaya and this is Padmini. So we both have co-founded a company called Fond. So at Fond, we are a personalized pet wellness company. So we are building a smart pet wearable. It's essentially like a Fitbit, but for dogs as of now. So we give all these vitals as to how your dog is doing, and everything is given to the pet parent on the app. So you can record it and view it and probably use it to get like a better, insight using a veterinarian. So it's a question for Sunil sir. Right now, we are looking, towards building a network with veterinarians. So we have competitors who have actually done this. Like they have like a practo but for dogs, but for veterinarians. But from the point where we are building it, we don't want to beat them. We don't want to have online veterinarian consultations. But we want to have veterinarians on board to probably view the records of our the customers and the data, give insights, and probably help us respond to any questions that our customers may have. So, since veterinarians are already on such platforms, what do you think would be, what do you think we can do to, influence veterinarians to be a part of our community?
You have to see what is the differentiation. So you just gave an example of Practo like a platform, and already there's something exists and veterinarians are already on that. So you will have to be very clear as to what is the differentiation in your offer. Okay. So then you you have to communicate that our solution is different. Something has to be different. If you're offering the same solution, it has to be something better if it's the same solution in terms of execution, in terms of quality of the inputs that you're giving. Just providing exactly the same input and this like that's because we need to prepare. So you have to first identify what your differentiation and then go and sell that differentiation. This is how you're going to benefit. End of the day, any sale is about the emotional or physical benefit that you're giving to people.
Yeah. So India had its one of the revolutions of UPI, and now there's something called as ONDC, which has come. What are your thoughts on ONDC? How do you think it's going to change India?
Yeah, so ONDC is in its infancy. Okay, a great initiative. The whole reason deeply for ONDC was that companies and Flipkarts of the world are sort of they favor a few selected sellers. And that was the reason for coming up with ONDC. So ONDC, one of the premises is that it will always connect you with your shortest distance of the local kirana or local all these guys. It's a network, basically, two-sided network, three-sided network. I think the biggest challenge will be, and always is, demand generation. So you can always go and list your products on Amazon, but they're not going to sell on Amazon. Likewise, you might open a store on ONDC and using an ONDC network, but what does it mean that is done to generate demand for that particular store? How are you going to put consumers in front of that store? That would be a challenge. Otherwise, in terms of infrastructure, etc., it is like a great initiative. Like you have this payment service providers, you have logistics service providers, you have the sellers who can come onto this framework, which is open source kind of framework. But demand gen, I think, for any business, that is not.
I think we should try. If I ask them again, they'll do more answer. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for being here. It's great talking to you guys. And getting awesome talks, making solutions.
Because there are people come to me and they want to start up at it. I always tell them something that start young. Okay, do not wait. I started off just 12 years back in my startup for a while. So I always tell them don't wait for your hair to come today. Start as soon as possible, as young as possible. And I think this is a great moment for me to see that so many young people who are still in college or just out of